Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coach Craig Sports. This is the live stream for the Monday Night Football game for today, October 3rd. This game is between the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm just pulling everything up here real quick. I will be going over the inactives and then kind of taking a look at the DraftKings Single Game Showdown Slate overall. So just giving it a little bit of time for everybody to get piled in here as well. So if you guys have any questions when it comes to the Single Game Slate, primarily on DraftKings, but if you do have Fanduel questions, we can touch on them as well. I am pulling up the inactives for this game overall, so I'm going to bring that up on the screen as we speak. So the inactives that we do have for tonight, we have the Rams. They are missing their center, Brian Allen. Tutu Atwell is kind of a surprise inactive tonight. Nothing too crazy about that, though. He wasn't doing too much this season. Both corners are out once again in Jacoby Durant and David Long. Jacoby Durant was the guy that was playing the slot for them in the absence of Troy Hill, who's on IR, and the David Long was another starting corner. So last week we saw Darian Kendrick and I believe it was Grant Haley play on the outside, and then Haley was in the slot. Should be some advantages there. We'll see if Robert Rochelle plays there. I don't believe Haley was recalled yet. Or elevated from the practice squad, I should say, more likely. They are missing David Edwards at guard once again, and then Sean Jolly and Bryce Park is nothing to talk about there majorly. 49ers side, Tyrion Davis Price is out once again. Danny Gray was doubtful, and he's not playing tonight, so that's no surprise there. Javon Kinlaw's maybe a little bit of a big one there at defensive tackle, but they do have some decent depth there as well. Tyler Kroft, we knew was going to be out already. Tavarius Moore is a backup safety. And then Trent Williams on the offensive line. It's kind of a big one for them as well. And then Nick Zekale, I don't even know how to pronounce his name properly, but he's just a backup offensive lineman either way. So that's kind of the inactives for now. I'm going to try to bring up DraftKings up here real quick. This is probably a more interesting real-life game than it is in terms of DFS. I think there's some advantages to be had. There's a couple different ways to get creative overall. But I think for the most part, this slate is going to be pretty cut and dry. It just kind of depends on what actually ends up happening in the game. But there's only a couple different ways that I've seen to approach it so far. So I'm just bringing this up on DraftKings, waiting for that to load real quick. So we're just going to pull one up right here real quick. I got a couple lineups that are already built myself. So I think there's different ways you can do it, whether you want to play 4-2 or 5-1. So 4-2 just means 4 guys from like the 49ers or 4 guys from the Rams and then 2 guys from the Rams or the 49ers, just respectively. I have this up here real quick. So we're going to go back here and bring up the DraftKings. All right. So now that we have DraftKings brought up, I like to look at the prices in the flex spot instead of just the regular captain spot. Cooper Kupp's the highest priced player, and reasonably so, at $12,000 altogether. He is not a bad captain play by any means. You can definitely get to him on this slate. There's plenty of different options out there. If you're going to do that, then you're probably going to play Matthew Stafford in the flex spot alongside him. So one of the lineups that I do have has him, and then a couple other lineups that I do have him in the flex spot, whether it's on FanDuel or DraftKings. But we're primarily looking at the DraftKings at this point in time. For Cooper Kupp, though, the projected ownership in the captain spot is 19%. So that's kind of the big talking point with him. If you're playing him, you're already got 19% of people coming along with the ride for you. So that's a good play if you want to cash, but if you're trying to win like a big GPP, if Cooper Kupp's not the ideal captain play, then you're just tied with a bunch of people. Or even if he is, then you're tied at the top with a bunch of people, and then you have Cooper Kupp in your captain spot plus Matt Stafford in your flex spot, and then you're kind of the 4 different spots between there. Where are you going from there? But we're going to work our way down the line here. So we got Matthew Stafford at $10,600. I definitely feel like you can play him in the captain spot, and there's some leverage to be gained there. He's projected for about 7% ownership in the captain spot overall. All my projections do come from Run the Sims. If you have not checked them out before, definitely be sure to check them out. They are not a direct sponsor of my channel or anything else like that. That's still a work in progress, but definitely a good site over there in terms of projections and kind of building lineups overall, especially for the single game slate overall. Then obviously we have Deebo Samuel at $10,400. He's a guy I'm a little bit more off of tonight than probably most. His projected ownership in the captain spot was at 15%. So I think it's a little bit too high for him. I don't mind playing him in the flex spot, but I don't think he's going to be the ideal play in the captain spot overall tonight. And he could see a lot of Jalen Ramsey tonight. I know Jalen Ramsey hasn't been shadowing quite as much the last couple of years, but I would not be surprised if it happens in this game. Jimmy Garoppolo's at $10,000. He's a reasonably priced there, but he's not anything flashy if you're playing him in the captain spot. It's not a bad play by any means. It's only 4% projected. He's only at 4% projected in the captain spot, but you're going to probably have to play like Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. And I do like Jawan Jennings a lot on this slate. He's down there further down. I believe he's $2,000 overall. We're going to go down to him real quick. So he's at $2,000 overall. He's been primarily playing the slot for them as their clear third wide receiver. So I think he does have some value today. Obviously, there's a little bit of boom bust upside there, but if he pays off, even if he gets 3 catches for 40 yards, he's going to be a pretty good place at $2,000 overall. What's up? So we got Johnson Daily Sports in here. He said, my guy, he said, I watch every day, and thanks for the content. Thank you for checking it out. Obviously, these streams are still very new, so I'm working my way through them. I'm used to doing pre-recorded videos, so I do slip up a little bit when I talk every once in a while, but definitely appreciate you checking it out. If you have any questions, whether it's DraftKings or Fanduel for tonight's slate, let me know as well. I'm just working through the price tags overall, and then we'll get into building a little bit of a lineup. Brandon Ayuk is $7,600 is somebody I do like. I mentioned that cornerback depleted depth for the Rams being a potential problem. I think that's where you're going to get guys like Brandon Ayuk and Jawan Jennings to exploit that a little bit more tonight, if that's going to be the case. And then you have George Kittle at $6,600. I think he could definitely have a good game, but the big downside with him is he's such a good blocker that they might keep him in a pass protection, since they're missing Trent Williams and a couple other pieces on that offensive line. So that's a little bit of my hesitation with him overall, but I still have a decent amount of George Kittle tonight. He's at 10% projected captain ownership, which feels a little high to me. So he's probably going to be in a flex spot rather than a captain spot for me overall. You got the running backs there with Jeff Wilson Jr. at $8,200. He's getting clear volume for this 49ers team. The bad part is sometimes they snipe his touchdown away, whether it's Deebo Samuel or Kyle Juszczyk. So that's kind of the downside. He's a safe play, maybe a little bit better in cash than in GPP setting. But I don't have a problem trying to roll him out there like in your captain spot overall if you want to build a couple lines like that. Maybe stick the 49ers defense on there because both these teams do have offensive line woes and injuries at this point in time. Both of them have good defensive lines that could be able to get after the passer, make some things happen, whether it's a sack, an interception, a fumble, anything else like that. It doesn't take much for those defenses to pay off. And both of them are pretty reasonably priced today once we get down there. Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, $7,000, $6,800 respectively. It's a split backfield at this point in time. Akers probably be the preferred option at this point in time, but I prefer Henderson. I think he's the better back, but it's really just a split timeshare at this point in time. And Johnson says, good, man. And he said, I got Cup as an MVP, but I only play on FanDuel. So a lot of my content is for FanDuel, and there's a decent amount for DraftKings as well. During NBA season, I do both sides. For baseball, I only do FanDuel just because I like the setup over there a little bit better, and the pricing is a little bit easier to navigate at times. I prefer DraftKings for football, but I do play on both sides for football as well. But definitely have some interest there. We can touch on a little bit of FanDuel if we have enough time a little bit later on, because the pricing over there is a little bit different too, honestly, on tonight's slate. Then Allen Robinson, $6,200. It's not a bad price tag. He could do something, but he's just a guy I'm going to be a lot underweight to on the field. And I did not write down his ownership percentages at this point in time. But then we get down to Tyler Higby. He's a guy that's had pretty good success versus the San Francisco 49ers. He got lucky on a couple touchdowns in a couple different games. Obviously, he plays a lot of snaps. He runs a lot of routes. He's not always the most efficient, though. That's kind of the one big downside with him, but $5,200 is a price tag that you could look at tonight. And his projected captain ownership is 12%. So if I'm going to play him, I'm probably going to play him in the flex spot. Maybe I'll stick Matthew Stafford up there in that captain spot if I want to play them alongside each other, because then you could play Stafford with Kupp and Higby and then try to take advantage of Stafford having the good game and then kind of split it up between a couple different pieces overall. Ben Skronek's $4,400. It's a little bit of overpriced for me. Obviously, he's playing a lot of snaps. He's running a lot of routes, but he's not super efficient. But I'd still probably rather play him than Allen Robinson at this point in time. But these outside corners for the 49ers are actually pretty good with Javarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley. So I do prefer Cooper Kupp in the slot, which obviously Cooper Kupp's the best receiver on this Rams team overall, but the slot position for the San Francisco 49ers is kind of a weakness overall too. Started with rookie Samuel Womack there for most of the year, and then last game it was Diamondor Lilmore, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's a second-year player out of, I believe, Oregon, and he was decent out at times last year as a rookie, but he was mainly used on the outside if I remember correctly. You could look at both defenses. It's just kind of how you build your team overall. Like I said, both these teams have a little bit of offensive line issues where they got guys that are banged up at this point in time. So there is potential for sacks, for interceptions, for fumbles to happen. Both kickers are definitely in play. Guys like Brandon Powell and Ray McLeod, they're just return guys. They get play a little bit on offense, but $3,000, $2,400. I don't know why you would play them over Jaywan Jennings, who actually plays real snaps, for $2,000, unless you're just trying to get super creative. Kendall Bland's just a backup blocking tight end. I believe he played like 10% of snaps last game. And the only reason he's on the team is because Bryson Perkins got suspended. So not super interested in him. I know he had like one good game in the playoffs last year and everybody freaked out about him, but he's really not that great overall. Jordan Mason got a couple carries last week, but I'm not super interested in him. They did elevate Tevin Coleman tonight as well. So you got Tevin Coleman, Jordan Mason, I believe Marlon Mack all behind Jeff Wilson, but Jeff Wilson's going to take the bulk of it. Kyle Juszczyk might be a little bit more involved in passing situations, but he's $1,000. I would not sneeze at him tonight since he's a guy they like to get involved in the game overall. He's been known to score a couple touchdowns here and there, so would not be surprised if he has a decent game once again. And then we have Ross Dwelley is banged up, $800. Don't want to take that shot there. Malcolm Brown was elevated prior to the game, but I assume he's probably just going to play special teams, maybe as a third running back just for depth if they did need it. Tevin Coleman, he's just depth at this point too. He hasn't even been that great overall. And then they brought up Willie Snead to the active roster and they elevated Malik Turner. They're both $200. They're both dart throws if you want to go that direction. But I do see, I'm just trying to see if there's anybody else down here at the bottom. I mean, Marlon Mack's there, but he really just played special teams last week, so we're not too interested in there. And I do see we got Chris up in here, and he said, can you build, please? So we'll get working on a little bit of a build here. And I think there's different ways that you can build this overall tonight. So we're going to try to do the Cooper Kupp build first. Maybe you want to play this as a cash line. Maybe you want to play it as a GPP line. Just as I mentioned earlier, the projected ownership for Cooper Kupp in the captain spot is 19%. So you're going to be up there with a lot of people. And if you're playing Cooper Kupp, you're playing Matthew Stafford. Now, who do you want to be your main guy for the 49ers? Do you want it to be Deebo Samuel? Do you want it to be Brandon Ayuk? Do you want to be George Kittle? I like Jaywan Jennings quite a bit tonight. Honestly, at $2,000, he's a good filler, but I don't think he's going to be my main 49er. So we're probably going to do a 4-2 stack here, where we're going to put whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel, Jeff Wilson, Brandon Ayuk, or George Kittle. Probably not going to put Jimmy Garoppolo there. I'd probably build a different line if I'm going to do it that way. We could have Deebo Samuel here. I'm going to personally go Brandon Ayuk in this line. And now that you have both pass catchers there, like you could make a 3-3 with Jimmy if you really wanted to do so. Yeah, so Chris says, appreciate you. So I do appreciate everybody that's checking this out. Once again, this stream, I believe it's the third stream I've done between the Monday night and the Thursday night football. So just working through this process. I like to do it about 45 minutes before kickoff and then try to go for about, 20, 30 minutes. But we do have Brandon Ayuk there at this point in time. So now we got $11,800. A lot of times something that people don't really talk about is when you have like a quarterback here, there is some correlation with the kicker, whether they're scoring points as touchdowns or whether they're scoring points where they're driving the ball. So you could put Matt Gay in here. We have $8,000 left over after that. That chops off quite a bit because we're just missing out on Jeff Wilson Jr. if we want to go there. You could play one of the running backs in Cam Akers or Darrell Henderson. We could definitely do that. We could do Cam Akers in this case. You got $1,000 more if you really want to spend up somewhere else. Or what we could do is we could go back here and we'll clear some of this out. And we could put Deebo Samuel back in here. Let's just see what happens. I was going to say, let's just see what happens if we put Deebo Samuel and Jimmy Garoppolo in there. Then I realized we only have about $1,000. So you'd have to play like 2 dart throws if you want to go that direction. But maybe you turn this lineup around. Maybe you take Cooper Kupp out here. Maybe we put Jimmy Garoppolo in. Excuse me. So we put Cooper Kupp in the regular spot. We could put Jimmy G in the captain spot, and then you could play like a Kyle Juszczyk or somebody like that, and then try to go with another dart throw if you want to go that direction. There's a lot of different ways that you could approach this slate. Let's see. I'm going to bring up one of the lineups that I had because he's a distinct lineup. Let's just put it that way. So I'm pulling this one up on my phone so that I can pull it back up on the screen a little bit easier. So this is a lineup that I don't mind that I built earlier. So I have, let's see here. So we have Brandon Ayuk in the captain spot. Since we're playing Brandon Ayuk, we're playing Jimmy Garoppolo to go alongside him, because if he's doing well, Jimmy's probably doing well as well. I have the 49ers defense. This is a 5-1 stack, though. I will say that right off the bat. 49ers defense, Robbie Gould, and Jeff Wilson Jr., and then Cooper Kupp. So when you're building single game stacks or single game lineups in general, you want to tell a story. So Brandon Ayuk's getting some touchdowns here. So Jimmy's having a decent game. The 49ers defense is playing pretty well. They're going to use Jeff Wilson Jr. late in the game. He's going to get some touches there. Maybe he gets a touchdown, maybe he doesn't. Robbie Gould's obviously scoring points because the offense is scoring some points. And then Cooper Kupp's still going to get targets. He's still going to get receptions. So even if his team's not scoring a lot of points, he's still going to have a decent enough game, but he's just not going to be the ideal captain. So that is one way you could go about it. Okay. Yeah, so throw a dart throw like you do in the captain spot like we did with Sherfield and the Dolphins one. So I'll clear this one out. A lot of times, the easy one to do for the 49ers games is Kyle Juszczyk, because Kyle Juszczyk could work out in a lot of different ways. Let me get back over to the tab here. So he's $1,500. So if you want to do him, you can still put Cooper. We can go Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford. We could play Deebo Samuel and Jimmy Garoppolo and still have $5,500 left over. And in this one, we know Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel are probably going to have a decently safe floor. We got both quarterbacks who have a decent chance of scoring a lot of points. And then Juszczyk, he might just get a touchdown and be that cheap dart throw there. When we got the $5,500, let's see the range that puts us in. You could go like Tyler Higby, then that would be a 3-3. Usually that's not the best, but if this is kind of back and forth game, you could definitely make a case for it. Let's see. Who else could we do that was pretty cheap? Because Juszczyk's a good one there. Or if you didn't want to play Tyler Higby, you could play still like one of the kickers and then move around one of the other spots if you want to do so. Or you could just leave money on the table. That's something that probably doesn't get talked about enough, is leaving money on the table, because that's a way to make your lineup a little bit more different, especially in a GPP type of setting. But we could play a lot of different ways here. We could do, I know I talked about the Jeff Wilson Jr. one in the captain spot already. Although the only bad part about that is sometimes he gets his touchdown sniped away. But if we could do that, and then we could play the 49ers defense once again, and then maybe you're doing a 4-2 or a 5-1 in favor of the 49ers overall. So we're building this out. Probably still going to play Cooper Kupp because he's still going to get enough volume that he's going to matter. And then you could do the opposing kicker. Sometimes that works out. And then we have $17,700 remaining. So let's just say we want to put Jimmy Garoppolo in here, or you could put Deebo Samuel in instead, but we could do this with Jeff Wilson Jr. in the captain spot. We got the 49ers defense. We got Cooper Kupp. We got Matt Gay, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brandon Ayuk. You're going to have to get a little bit creative on this slate, just because a lot of people are going to be playing this slate the same way. They're going to put Cooper Kupp in the captain spot. They're going to put Matthew Stafford in the flex spot. They're going to play Deebo Samuel, and then they're going to fill out the rest from there, because that's what the names that people know, and sometimes that's what's going to happen. Otherwise, you're going to get Deebo in the captain spot. You're going to get Jimmy Garoppolo alongside him. You're going to get Cooper Kupp. You might get Matthew Stafford too. It seems like a lot of people are on the tight ends in this game, and George Kittle and Tyler Higby. And I know Johnson Daily Sports was in here for a little bit too, so I just want to touch on Fanduel real quickly for him. And let me just pull up my other sheet. It's on my different browser though, so these are the guys that stand out for me price tag when we're talking FanDuel real quick. So obviously Cooper Kupp's the most expensive guy, $17,500. He's probably worth it more times than not. If you're playing him, you're probably playing Matthew Stafford for the ride. And then you get down to some of the cheaper guys. Jimmy Garoppolo is $15,000. I'm not sure he's exactly worth it, but there is case on the FanDuel side where you could put Jimmy in the MVP spot. You can play Brandon Ayuk, who's $9,000. George Kittle, that's $8,500. Juwan Jennings, who's $7,500. Play two of those three. Play three of those three even. I think you can even play all three in Cooper Kupp, and it fits in the line. Don't quote me on that, though. I feel like I threw that one in myself, but that is a possibility there. Deebo Samuel is $14,000, reasonably priced there. Jeff Wilson's $12,500. Maybe a little bit too expensive for what he's been doing, but you can make a case for him. Tyler Higby's $10,500, a little bit more pricey than I would want to pay on the FanDuel side. Cam Akers, $10,000. He's probably my preferred Rams running back on FanDuel. Both defenses are $9,500. Brandon Ayuk, $9,000 on FanDuel is a very great price for him. Then we have both kickers, Matt Gay and Rob Gold, $8,500 and $8,000. Both are definitely in play. George Kittle's is going to look pretty good over there just because he's $8,500. Juwan Jennings, $7,500, going to look pretty good. And then Kyle Juszczyk is $55,000. In terms of the core captain plays, this is something that I do on my sheet. It's on my Patreon page. I typically do it for all the single game showdown slates for the primetime games. This week I did not get Sunday just because I was out of town, so was not able to hit that one myself. And the streams I typically just do for Monday and Thursday night ones overall. But in terms of the core captain plays on DraftKings, I like Cooper Kupp. I like Matthew Stafford. I do like Jeff Wilson in some cases, and I do like Brandon Ayuk. Those would probably be the four that I'm going to play the most of. But you could definitely mix in like a Juszczyk line or something like that, like we had up on the screen just a little bit ago. Not sure if that one's still the one that's up on the screen. And then on FanDuel, you're looking more at Cooper Kupp. You're looking at Matthew Stafford, Brandon Ayuk. And I don't mind the Jimmy Garoppolo line if you're going to play Jimmy Garoppolo, Brandon Ayuk, and like George Kittle underneath him. I don't think that's a bad way to go about things. But let's see. We are about 7 minutes before 7 o'clock my time, which is Central Time. It'd be 8 o'clock Eastern Time. If anybody else has any questions before we get out of here, just be sure to let me know. Can try to build something else. Let's see what happens if we build a Rams defensive captain. Because the Rams defensive captain is 1%. 49ers defensive captain is 1%. Typically, they get played more than that, but there is a case to be made with the Rams defense. There's obviously no Trent Williams. They're a little bit banged up on the offensive line as well. Let's see here. Rams defense. Typically, if you play the defense, you like to play the running back on the same team. In the Rams case, it's a little bit more tricky just because we have Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson. So there's the split there. So do you want to go that way? We don't have to go that way. We could still play Matthew Stafford. We could still play Cooper Kupp if that's something we want to do. We put Deebo in there, which isn't the end of the world, honestly, because he's going to be that safe volume guy. You're probably going to want somebody from the 49ers that is a safe volume guy, whether it's Deebo Samuel or Jeff Wilson Jr., because you know what you're going to get out of them. You know that they're going to have touches in this game one way or another, even if that Rams defense is still doing well. And the Rams defense, all it's got to do to do well is get a couple interceptions off Jimmy Garoppolo, cause a fumble, get some sacks. Let's see here real quick. So we have that. We have 11,000. Or if you really wanted to and you want to go all Rams, you could even go down to Juwan Jennings and just keep coming back to him today just because he's only $2,000. He's the clear third wide receiver there. I know they just elevated two other guys, but I don't too concerned about Willie Snead and who's the other guy? Malik Turner. Turner's probably just going to play special teams. Snead might see like 20% of the snaps in this game. But Danny Gray is out. So he's going to take over his snap share, which is not very much at this point in time. Let's see. So we have 20,000. Probably, so you wouldn't play Jimmy. You could still play Cam Akers. Heck, you could even play both running backs. Excuse me, I put George Kittle in there. If you really want to get real different, you could play the Rams defense, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson. You could play both Rams running backs. You could play Juwan Jennings. You could play pretty much anybody in that spot. That's $8,200. You could even put Jeff Wilson Jr. in there. This would be a really crazy build, actually, but this would be one that you only use in a GPP type of setting because you have the Rams defense. You got the two chalky Rams players. You got the guy that we know is going to get carries for the 49ers. And then we have both Rams running backs. So you kind of safety guard. Maybe both these guys have a touchdown today. Maybe they split, 15 carries apiece. That is a possibility that could happen, but that's a GPP type only one because you're not playing both running backs in cash. Like, it's just not a thing that's going to happen. And it's probably not a smart thing to do either way, especially when you do single game cash games. Typically, you want the guys that you know are going to have volume. So tonight it's going to be Cooper Kupp. It's probably going to be Matthew Stafford, maybe some Jeff Wilson Jr., some Deebo Samuel. And then you're going to play one of the team's kickers, and then you're going to kind of go from there. So I think cash tonight's going to be pretty simple. It's going to be, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, one of the kickers, maybe Jeff Wilson Jr., maybe Deebo Samuel, and then kind of take your pick on the last spot would be my guess overall. But I haven't done too many sims for the top optimal lineup in terms of cash. A lot of times that people just do that. They run their optimals and they just put it whatever one the top one is in for their cash. I can run one off to the side here real quick and just see what pops up. Let's see here. I'm just waiting for this to load. So we got to go back to DraftKings, single, tonight's game, and then we'll run a couple sims. This is off to the side. Obviously, since it's on Run the Sims, don't want to share too much information on their end, obviously, at this point in time. And right now, the optimal lineups. So custom lineups. So the one that comes up the top right now as the most popular when it's populating is Cooper Kupp in the captain spot, the flex spot of Jeff Wilson Jr., Matt Gay, the kicker, Matthew Stafford, Robbie Gould, and Tyler Higby. So that could be a potential cash lineup. This one does have two kickers in it instead of like one kicker and another player, but you have the safe players there in Cooper Kupp, the safe volume guy for the 49ers, and Jeff Wilson Jr. We got Matthew Stafford. We got one kicker, which actually ended up being two kickers, and then Tyler Higby there. The next popular one that did come up was Cooper Kupp in the captain spot, Jeff Wilson Jr., Matt Gay, Matthew Stafford, 49ers defense, which this one would not be one that you play in cash. Let's see the next one. Next one is actually Cooper Kupp, captain spot, Jeff Wilson Jr., Rams defense, Matt Gay, Matthew Stafford, and Tyler Higby. That one could be one that I'm not sure I play in cash, but in a GPP type of setting, it'd definitely be interesting. Let's see what else we got here. Any ones that would make sense for cash? Because sometimes you'll run these optimal lineups, and you have to look through them. Like, don't just run them, stick them in, and pray it's going to work. Because, like, some of these ones you have to look at and make sure they actually make sense for what you're trying to do. Like, yes, I got Cooper Kupp or this Rams guy in the captain spot, but then it's got 49ers defense there. Well, there is a chance that plays out and works out all right, but how often is that the case? Here's one that projects the best on average points for the simulation, and it's Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Jeff Wilson Jr., Matt Gay, Robbie Gould, and Tyler Higby. So this one projects really well in terms of points, but you have no exposure to either quarterback. So you have to hope that the quarterbacks are kind of meh tonight. So that's one that maybe you can get away with on some slates, and other slates you're probably not going to be able to get away with as much. Let's see what else we got here. We got one with the Rams with Cooper Kupp in the captain spot, Allen Robinson, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Juszczyk, Matt Gay, and Matthew Stafford. Let me go back to their optimal results. I'll see where the leverage appears to be. It seems like Run the Sims does like Deebo Samuel a little bit more in the captain spot, about 3% more, but that's one that I'm not really too concerned about myself. Jeff Wilson Jr. is about 3% more. Cooper Kupp's a little bit less in general. They are a little bit lower on Matthew Stafford, about 3.5%, even though his projected ownership was 7%. I do like Matthew Stafford. I do like having some exposure to both quarterbacks in the captain spot tonight. Let's see what else we got here real quick before we get out of here. Marginal for a lot of these guys. They don't like Allen Robinson. I don't either. Jawan Jennings in the captain spot was projected 3%, but they only have him at 0.6%. I think he's a good flex play, but I don't think you need to play him in the captain spot. Here real quick. No other ones that really stand out at this point in time. So that's kind of what I got for tonight. If you guys have any more questions before I run out of here, please let me know. I know there's only a couple of people watching still, but I'll give you guys a couple minutes. If you don't have anything else, we'll get out of here, and hopefully you guys do pretty well tonight. Hopefully you found this little stream interesting, and look forward to Thursday night's stream as well, which I believe is the Broncos and the Colts, if I remember correctly. So I'm just waiting. If anybody has any questions, once again, please feel free to ask. Let me see. I got to see which lineup's still up there. It's a little bit harder to see on my end at first, so I got to go back over to the tab. So that was kind of the Rams onslaught with the Rams defense in the captain spot. Although most likely if somebody's running a Rams onslaught, they're probably going to have Cooper Kupp in the captain spot, Matthew Stafford in the flex spot. They're going to play one of the running backs. They're probably going to play Tyler Higby. They're probably going to play the kicker, maybe the Rams defense in there, and then they're just playing one guy from the 49ers side. So I'll build that one real quick just since I'm talking about it. So Cooper Kupp. Okay, well, we'll just put Matthew Stafford in the captain spot because that's something you can do in this slate too. Put Stafford and then have Kupp, and then we go Higby. And then you're either playing the Rams defense or the Rams kicker. So in this case, it'd be Matt Gay. Probably running a 5-1 stack if you're looking for a Rams onslaught. And then maybe we do Jeff Wilson Jr. because he is there and going to get safe touches. And then you could do the Ben Skoranek if you want to do so because you have Stafford up in the captain spot, or you could do the Rams defense and leave a little bit of money on the table. So that's an option too as well. Not sure you can do that one with Stafford and Kupp in the same lineup the same way. Actually, you can. You still have $600 left over, so you can do Kupp in the captain spot, then Stafford, Tyler Higby, Matt Gay, Jeff Wilson Jr., and the Rams defense. That could be a viable option for tonight as well. But that's pretty much what I have at this point in time. If anybody has any last-minute questions, please let me know. I'll hang around for about 30 seconds. But other than that, good luck tonight, as I already said once before. And hopefully you guys come home with a little bit of money. And this lineup that I do have here right now, I'm probably going to put this in one of my lineups tonight as well because I like some of these onslaught ones, getting a little bit creative on this slate. I think it should be a pretty interesting game, but from DFS, it's maybe a little bit different perspective than some other slates. But with that being said, once again, I am heading out. You guys can hit me up on Twitter before game time as well at Coach Craig Sport. If you have not already checked out, there is the Patreon page, patreon.com/Coach Craig Sports. I do have, they're both small donations either way. They're both small donations either way, but the normal package gets you the snap count spreadsheets for the season. Essentially what you do there, you can see every single team, every single player, how many snaps they played pretty much per week. And that's all in one place. No other real places that I know of do it, but I only charge a small fee for it just because it does take me, about 4 hours a week to put together. And then I do a matchup sheet with that as well, looking at the matchups of the cornerbacks versus the wide receivers. I went into some of that earlier in this video as well. And then you get the weekly rankings for fantasy football. If that's something you're into as well. Otherwise, there is the DFS package, which is just a little bit more. You get my DFS sheets plus everything I already mentioned. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're interested in. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me too, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter or anything else like that. But with that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this stream. I do appreciate everyone that tuned in, and thank you guys for watching, and good luck tonight once again.